This is the program where anything is up for discussion. You got me, Jeff, alongside, as always, the lovely Shannon. What's going on, Shan?
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing fine, kid. What's going on with you?
Nothing. Just here doing a show with you.
All right. Nothing big this week? Nothing new to report? No big deals? Everything's
just being
calm?
me.
All right.
Not sick.
Short
which is
week.
Good.
Short week last week, which was cool. We had a little holiday, the unofficial kickoff of summer, right?
Kind of unofficial.
Yeah.
A decent day for barbecuing. So no snow. That was a bonus.
Yeah. Come to finally, I think we could put the salts and the scrapers away.
I don't know. There's
Probably
still a box of salt in the lobby of our building, but I don't know. It might be there until November.
Well, it's possible.
But
it is.
So the holiday's over, and everybody's back to the ground today. Back to the grind, sorry. And tomorrow's Wednesday.
You know what was weird is that I drove around Leominster a little bit, had a couple of errands to run, and I'm sitting there going, isn't anybody at work today? Because it was like, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock, middle of the day, and it was so crowded out there. I was like, this is like 5 o'clock traffic. Did you see anything like that down at the bakery? Or
I was just baking all day, dude. I wasn't looking at traffic, and I have no idea. I didn't see daylight very much today, so.
All right. Well, Shannon's been working hard, as you know. She's been burning the candle at both ends down there at Shan Cakes at 368 Central Street in Leominster. And you can find out more if you'd like to visit her or try some of the goodies down there. You can find her at 368 Central Street in Leominster, or call 978-840-4343, or visit her at shancakes.com. And guys, we've got a really, really busy show and a lot to get to tonight. We've got... Earlier in the show, we're going to talk about some things where Shannon's going to get into the who does that. We've got some breaking news for you. And then later in the show, this became a very, very heated debate over the week's time. And this is part 2, which we're going to recap a little bit of part 1. But we're going to get into drug addiction. And a couple of things we're going to touch on is whether drug addiction is an illness or a choice. And we're also going to get into, and you and I have had a show about this before, but when do you stop helping and when does that become enabling? Both of those subjects are going to be very interesting to talk about in a little bit. But first, we do have a breaking story, Shannon, out of Leominster, Massachusetts.
Breaking.
And our breaking news is brought to us by the makers of Skull Hunter, available at indieplanet.com.
Excellent.
All right, this breaking news out of Leominster. Lost Dog Patches has been reunited with his owner right here in Leominster, Mass. I was the guy that actually found him wandering around the neighborhood.
So cute.
And, he was a good little guy. You know, he came up, Shannon, and he was very friendly. You know, he was very docile. You could tell he's a little thirsty. You know, I got him a little water, and he drank it really quickly, so you could tell he hadn't had anything in a while.
I know. I came home from work, and there was a bowl of water in the lobby.
But, I mean, he was very cool with me. You know, he was very calm, and when I put him on the leash, he didn't try to pull away. He was just really, really easy to walk around. So I knew he was somebody's dog. I knew it wasn't just a stray. I mean, he looked like he was well groomed. He was well kept for. However, he didn't have tags. So I didn't know what to do. So I turned to you guys, my faithful followers on Facebook. And I do want to thank all of you guys. There was a ton. I think there was 72 shares on this little guy.
Wow.
And you guys helped bring him home with the help of our mayor, Dean Mazzarella, who posted it up there, and somebody that knew him, that knew me, that knew the guy, ended up getting in touch with me, Shannon. It ended up being an old friend of mine from like 20 years ago.
No kidding.
He had moved to Connecticut, and he had actually left the dog with his sister, which was in the neighborhood. So the dog wandered off, obviously, and ended up in our neighborhood, but the dog was safely returned. And I will tell you that the owner of the dog was very teary-eyed when I got there. She had thought that the dog was gone. The dog has a history of wandering off, so we've got to kind of put the kibosh on that, and hopefully they can secure that fence. And it's good. Sometimes you need a good feel-good story, and with all the crap going on in the world. But so here it is.
You did a good job.
So, and this is like the second time In a year,
Patches.
if you remember earlier in the year, Shannon, I had come across at CVS, I stumbled across a wedding ring. And,
In a band.
wedding ring and band welded together, and had an inscription inside, so we were able to identify if anybody came forward. We were able to identify who it could be.
Yep.
And it was really cool because the lady it was like 17 hours later. The lady had the ring for 18 plus years, didn't know she lost it, had lost a ton of weight. And and there we go. Using
That made
using
the front page of
Facebook.
the paper, actually.
It did. It
She
made,
was so grateful to you because she didn't even know it was missing until someone told her on
That's
Facebook.
right. That's right. She had lost a ton of weight, and she didn't realize the ring had even slipped off her finger. And lo and behold, she saw it up on Facebook. So, guys, there's a good example. Not only bringing patches home, but helping people
patches.
find their rings. There's a good example of using social media for good instead of evil, like all the crap that's out there. And note to self, about social media, I get the word of the day, okay? It may be just a segment for today, Shannon. The word of the day is, if you have to put celebrity in your title, you're probably not a celebrity.
Where
Don't
did
you
this
think?
come from? Are you talking about it, or is this just a secret?
No, I watch people up there and they glorify themselves. They put these titles up there: celebrity this, celebrity that, celebrity this, celebrity that.
Yeah.
Really?
If
If you're gonna say you're a celebrity and you're not recognized as one, and you're like a self-proclaimed one,
You'll have to tell
probably
me on the
not a
break who it
celebrity.
is because
All
I'm
right.
dying to know.
Well, it's
I
a
mean,
little
I'm not
bit-
surprised. I've seen a ton of it myself.
It's a little bit of everything. I mean,
Really?
you know me, Shan. I never take just a snapshot of one thing and get hysterical about it. It's got to be like a pattern of behavior, and lots of people doing it. So trust me when I tell you,
Larger than life.
Trust me when I tell you, this is not just a little snapshot here. This is something that is beginning to, I don't know, it's beginning to kind of raise its ugly head on there, and it's kind of ridiculous if you ask me. I don't know.
There's a couple of those floating around, and like you and I and everybody else who just go.
Yeah, but it's funny. I just laugh because these people that are the self-proclaimed ones, they're the ones that
Larger than
probably-
life.
Yeah, you got to think so.
We've won all the awards. We're better than you. We're celebrities.
Well, I don't know. It's just people that think they're all.
We're
that,
richer,
that's all.
braver, can jump higher, better sneakers, whatever.
Run higher and jump faster than you.
Whatever.
That's right. All right, guys. Wow. We got to thank everybody here for joining us. And we also want to thank those for joining us around the world on upfordiscussionlive.com as we stream worldwide, and also those that make this presentation possible. This is brought to you, of course, by Lemonster Storage Solutions over there on Central Street. You can call them to find out more at 978-466-8887 or find out more online at lemonsterstorage.solutions.com. All right, Shannon, we are going to open up the call lines in just a little bit. And one person that, of course, that takes full advantage of that throughout the week is our buddy JT.
Ah, thank God.
Yeah, it's been a week, but it's time to find out what JT thinks.
Okay.
Hello, Jeff and Shannon. JT from L.A. Well, Jeff and Shannon is back. Deflate gate. They're saying Tom Brady probably knew that his footballs were underdeflated. So what is it that exactly did he do? Did he knock out his wife in an elevator? No.
Oh.
Did he hit any of his kids with a stick? No.
No, didn't do that either.
Did he raise dogs for fighting? No. Seems to me the NFL's got more things to worry about this guy letting a little air out of a football.
Agreed.
So what's his punishment going to be? Missing a game, big fine. David Letterman says he should spend a week in jail with Aaron Hernandez.
Oh,
Worst
that's
punishment.
not very nice.
He said he should play for the New York Jets for a couple of games. I guess that would be real bad punishment. Well, Jeff and Shannon, that's just what JT thinks. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
See, you're not a football fan, but for those that
I
are
know.
football fans, playing for the New York Jets would be a worse punishment than being in jail with Aaron Hernandez for a week, Shannon, if you can believe that. It's that bad.
Such a tool.
They're that bad.
They're gonna get tattoos together. Another one. Right on the neck.
I know. How does somebody that's in jail get a tattoo
That
that
big.
lasts that long? Yeah, I actually did some research, and the guys like him that are in jail, they're so connected with the gangs. that they have their prison guards by the balls. And what I mean by that...
Oh, yeah. There's no way that the guards don't hear all afternoon.
Oh, no, because what I mean by that is they're so connected with the gangs that it's like, yeah, Officer Melendez, we know where your family is, and if you don't, look the other way while we're doing this stuff and give us carte blanche in here, we'll send those people after your family that we know from the outside. So, pretty nasty state of affairs when you look at that. That's for sure.
Yep. It's. I don't understand. I mean, it is all about bribing the guards. And, of course, he's a famous football player, so you might have some gaga guards. We have a friend who's actually a prison guard at that very same prison.
Right.
I do have to, on the down low, ask him about this stuff. Like, how does he get a tattoo in jail?
I know.
How? Like, what are you doing that...
I just want to get a tour so I can go flip the guy off. I'd stand him from the other side
I
of
don't
the
know.
bars going,
I think if tours were that easy to do, everybody and their mother would be in there.
I'm joking. They're not giving tours.
Hernandez, we love you. Yeah, I don't think they do tours anymore.
There are actually women that I have seen on Facebook that still think he's like all that. It's amazing. He's a convicted murderer, and they're like, yeah, aside of the convicted murderer thing, he's kind of hot. And I'm like, really? You guys are they're that desperate. The pool out there is that shallow for men that somebody like Aaron Hernandez would be like a sex symbol to like anybody. I mean,
you know what? It's because he's incarcerated, so he's vulnerable. So women will throw themselves at him because they're in a very weird state themselves. Yeah. So the best they can do is try to get a celebrity who's in a vulnerable position. It's all psychological and very, very sad.
It is very sad.
There's a whole science behind why they get all that fan mail. Trust me.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to hear about everything that is Shannon when it comes up to who does that. So stick around. You're watching UpForDiscussionLive.com.
Up for Discussion with Jeff and Shannon Sylvia. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Up for Discussion Live is brought to you in part by Lemonster Storage Solutions, Mariano's Restaurante, Sasquatch Coffee, and Village Pizza.
Oh yeah, when you hear that music, it can only mean one thing. It's that segment of the program when Shannon Sylvia asks, who does that? And now, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Shannon Sylvia.
All right, guys. So thank you for paying attention to your favorite segment of the show, the Who Does That, with myself, Miss Shannon Sylvia. 3 stories tonight are offered to you free of charge at my doing and my expense. The first story comes out of Maryland. On Friday, this story came out. A 24-year-old mother was found pushing a dead toddler on a swing at Willis Memorial Park in La Plata, Maryland.
Oh, my God.
Some witnesses claim that the mother had been playing with the child since the night before. Deputies arrived at the horrifying scene slightly after 9 a.m. The deputies instantly recognized that the toddler had been deceased.
Oh, my God.
Cause of the boy's death and how long he had been dead is currently unknown. An autopsy is scheduled to be performed on the 3-year-old's corpse in the near future.
Who does that?
They are saying that this may be a case of mental illness.
Thank you. I was going to ask that. I would hope it is. I mean, I wouldn't think that any mother in their sane mind, I can't find a reason for that. So that's a tough one, kid.
You know what baffles me, Jeff, though? I mean, this is Maryland, of course, but why are witnesses now saying that the mother was doing that since the night before? Why wouldn't somebody maybe say, this child looks slightly dead on the swing, and call police earlier?
Yeah, why would it take so long?
Why would it take so long? Even if the child was sleeping and then, I mean, Jeff, if you and I were at a park and we noticed this, and the child just simply never woke up, wouldn't we say something to somebody?
Yeah, very true. Very true.
What's wrong with people that they can't stop her and say, what is going on here, or approach her? and how do they feel that this was going on the night before, and they're finally coming forward the next morning saying, yeah, we saw her playing with the dead kid the night before?
I don't know. I mean, in this day of awareness, I mean, people are calling like real quick these days. So
I don't
find that
get it,
surprising.
man. I just
Really
don't get it.
No.
I don't get it.
Wow. Well, that's why it's called Who Does That, Shan?
Seriously. Second story of the night. An Oklahoma woman accused of slashing the face and cutting body parts off the corpse of a romantic rival was due in court in a Tulsa court on Monday for a hearing on increasing her bail.
Do you have a theme going with crazy ass women tonight, or what?
Well, there are some crazy ass men. Shayna Sims was charged this week with unlawful removal of body part from deceased for cutting off the toe and breasts from the body of the other woman as it was awaiting cremation at a funeral home. The Tulsa DA office says. How does she get access to this? I want to know. Court appearance planned for her has been pushed back to Monday. Sims, also known as Shayna Smith, has already been charged with crimes including interrupting a funeral, stealing shoes meant for the woman, and unauthorized dissection for slashing the face of her former boyfriend's lover as it laid in a casket. So this was the same girl she's still pretty pissed at. Lawyers for the Sims were not immediately available for comment. She posted $43,750 bond on Monday and was released from the jail. The deceased woman died of natural causes relating to a long illness, the local broadcaster News on 6 reported. Prosecutors said before the body was set to be cremated, Sims cruelly cut and removed a toe from the dead body, crudely cut and removed the breasts from the body. According to papers filed in a district court on Wednesday, they said it is too early to say what kind of sentence they're seeking in the case.
Oh, my God.
Who does that?
Obscure reference. You would probably see something like that at the Hollywood Museum of Death, wouldn't we, Shan?
Pretty much.
Wasn't there somebody that we saw that was doing that? It was from the 70s.
Well, the couple had murdered her husband, and then they were chopping off various body parts.
Oh, Jesus.
That was pretty sick in the head too, what they had done. And oh my God. Okay, you hated the lady. Okay, she took your boyfriend away. Probably better off because the guy didn't want your ass, crazy ass. Huh? But the woman dies from an illness, and you're going to slash her face and her body parts off. And
oh my God.
Really, what part of she's dead didn't you understand?
That's
move on, lady.
Yeah. That's
it's just gross. And then she'll always be known as like the toe and breast lady. And who's going to go out with that? Who's going to tap that afterwards? Who? What
Who
guy?
Does that?
What guy is going to want crazy?
Yeah.
You can't fix crazy.
No, you can't.
I wouldn't want to be known as that lady.
No. And
jeez.
And thank God you won't be.
God, seriously, have some respect for yourself. Third story. This is coming from Boston, Massachusetts.
Alrighty.
A woman uses obituary to say Brady is innocent in Deflategate, so we're still talking about it. Massachusetts woman has used her own obituary to convey a final message on Tom Brady in the Deflategate scandal.
It's fantastic.
Boston.com reports that Patricia Shong of Auburn, which is not far from us, by the way, died on Monday surrounded by her family. The obituary says the 72-year-old enjoyed scrapbooking, weekly card nights, and spending time with her family.
Okay.
She would also like to set the record straight for her. It reads, Brady is innocent. Brady was suspended for 4 games, and the New England Patriots were fined $1 million, as we all know, and docked for a pair of draft picks after lead investigator Ted Wells found that the Super Bowl champs used illegally inflated footballs in the AFC title game.
Yeah.
Wells also found the New England quarterback at least generally aware of the scheme. Brady's appealing his suspension.
Of course he is.
Now, Jeff, this is now
that?
the second time that we've heard about an obituary being used. One was for begging people not to vote for Hillary Clinton as president.
That's true.
That was a couple weeks ago. And now Deflategate. Are we, as a society, starting to use obituaries that are read by the public, like as a public forum now for opinion? I think that's incredibly tacky, I just have to say. I don't believe that the deceased, deserves that kind of obituary. That obituary is going to be forever.
Yep.
In 100 years from now, people will be like, who's Tom Brady and what's Deflategate?
But if that was her wishes, then,
we don't know that. They didn't quite cover that. But I just don't see this as a forum for the family's opinion. If she enjoyed scrapbooking and spending time with the family, my guess is that she wasn't as big of a Brady fan as somebody who wrote that obituary.
Oh, you never know. But
I don't know.
I do have a sound clip, and I think that anybody could relate to this. And just check it out. Shan,
right.
you can sing along, Shan.
Because to me those balls are perfect. I can't speak for myself. I don't want anyone touching the balls, rubbing the balls. To me those balls are perfect. Some guys like them round and some guys like them thin. Some guys like old balls, new balls. They're all different, so you gotta feel them. You gotta squeeze them. To me those balls are all perfect. You gotta feel them. You gotta squeeze them. To me those balls are all perfect. You gotta feel
Come on, Jeff.
you gotta squeeze them. To me those
Balls are perfect.
All right. Those balls are perfect. Tom Brady making the airwaves. And, there was a rally at Gillette Stadium the other day to proclaim Tom Brady's innocence. So it's viral everywhere, Shan. We'll find out when the appeal happens. That's all we got to
Those
say.
balls were perfect.
All right, guys, and we're going to step out when we come back. We're going to talk about a very, very serious subject in this country, the heroin addiction that is taking over. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Excellent.
Hey everyone, this is Scott Rockenfield from Queensryche, and you're watching Terror Rock TV.
And now back to Up for Discussion right here on Terror Rock TV.
This is the program where anything is up for discussion, and it is time to get into our main topic this evening. And this is part two. Part one was last week. We can do a little recap for you. But what we're talking about is the heroin addiction in this country. And Shannon, as I started to research this last week, I was completely shocked by quite a few things. And what I'm finding is not only is the death rate for heroin overdoses doubled in the last couple of few years, but also the average age of a person that is addicted and dying from heroin, believe it or not, is 24 years old.
I
if you
absolutely
can get your
believe
head
that.
around that.
I
That's
do.
terrible.
I absolutely believe that.
One of the reasons that we're finding is people are saying that heroin nowadays is so cheap and it's very accessible. So people are coming into it easier and getting addicted to it easier. And there was a big discussion on Facebook today. It got to be a very heated discussion with over 175 posts to a simple question. And the question was, is drug addiction an illness or a choice? And we're going to get into that, and as well as breaking down. There's a lot of evidence to support both sides of that, so it's going to be a very interesting conversation. We certainly are going to ask people to call in, and we are going to post the call-in line here very quickly, so stick around for that. But Shannon, before we get started into this, I asked you to pull a couple of definitions for us. So the first thing I guess I'd like to do is let's get into the definition of what is an illness.
Well, here's a couple different things that we have to understand. First of all, a disease. The actual dictionary version of disease. It's
what's
a
the
disorder.
Merriam-Webster?
It's a disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that produces specific signs or symptoms, or that affects a specific location and is not simply a direct result of physical injury.
Okay. All right. So that's what's defined in the Merriam-Webster dictionary as a disease or illness.
It's a disorder of a structure or function.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the definition of a choice?
An act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities.
Okay.
The choice between good and evil, for instance.
Okay.
Synonyms: option, alternative, possible course of action.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, the third one I wanted you to look up. Can you give us the definition of addiction?
Absolutely. Drug addiction is a compulsive need for and use of habit-forming substances such as heroin, nicotine, or alcohol, characterized by tolerance and well-defined physiological symptoms upon withdrawal. Broadly persistent compulsive use of a substance known by the user that is to be harmful.
Harmful. Okay. All right.
So 3 very specific definitions.
Yes,
there.
indeed. Yes, indeed. We took this to the social airwaves, and we made it this week's public opinion question: drug addiction, illness, or choice. We had quite a few responses to this, and now I'm going to read a couple of them, and then we're going to go to the phone lines here. I'm going to say it started out simply, choice, then illness, choice, then illness, choice, then illness. But there were a few very, I would call surprising responses. And I did get one privately. I did promise to keep the writer anonymous. But as a former addict, this person wrote me in private and said it is absolutely a choice, 100% a choice. However, Shannon, there are people that also believe that is an illness that is based in the brain. And I will tell you that there is some evidence of that. The high dopamine levels in a healthy subject are much higher, as you can see there, than the dopamine levels of a drug abuser. So there is some, let's call it, and I'm not on one side or the other on this yet. I'm going to debate both sides fairly here, but I do want to present all of the evidence as we can find it. And there is some evidence here to prove, to show that there could potentially be a link to brain activity and dopamine levels and addiction. Now, what a lot of people are saying that it's a bad choice that leads to addiction, and I can see that. So at this time, guys, we are going to go to the phones. We're going to invite you to call in if you are a recovering addict, or if you know somebody that is an addict, or if you're perhaps... Yeah, well, we don't want anybody to be, Shannon. Send hate mail to shannon@ptv.com.
You're working on that.
It's going to give you a little form there to fill out. You like when I do that. But no, if you're a mental health professional, we would certainly invite you to call in. And the number there, of course, is 323-902-6661. Shannon, if you want to post that in the chat, 323-902-6661. And invite you guys to call in. We certainly want to hear from you because there's quite a few, angles on this that we want to cover. And we do have a caller calling in. Hello, you're on with Jeff and Shannon. What do you got?
Hi, Jeff. This is Alexa, Servideo. How are you?
Alexa, thank you so much for calling in. Alexa is a licensed psychotherapist, and we did ask her to call in as well and discuss a few things with us. And we also have a 603 caller on with us. We're going to have him hold on for just a second. Alexa, I'm going to ask you as a mental health professional. You've worked with drug addiction before in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
And the question that is on the table right now, drug addiction, is it a choice or is it an illness, in your professional opinion?
It starts off as a choice, obviously, to first use or to try it. But as with heroin, it is so addictive after the first use that when people become addicted so quickly to it. I had a police officer who specializes in narcotics, and he said 80% of the people that are heroin addicts now started out as regular people who had maybe an accident or an injury, and they were put on painkillers.
Wow.
And the painkillers were so addictive that to chase that high, when they couldn't get painkiller prescriptions from their doctors anymore, they started using heroin.
Wow.
And it's easier to get, and they get high pretty quickly from it, but it's so much more deadlier.
I believe it.
So it's not the stereotypical, let's call it, junkie in the alley that's got a torn coat and is unshaven. Heroin addicts are from every walk of life these days, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I'm seeing more and more young girls from the ages of like 18 to 24 who have professional jobs, who are working in very professional jobs, working with people, working with children, and they are addicted to heroin.
Wow.
And they're going in the bathroom, shooting up, or they're snorting it, or they're smoking whatever they can get their hands onto it. But it becomes so addictive that once they're really so caught up with it, it's hard for them to even really get off of it.
And they say that it can happen. Addiction can happen at the very first use of it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So it's fast, it's cheap, it's effective, but it's very, very difficult to break from.
Okay.
It's sad.
All right, Alexa, I'm going to have you stick around with us here for just a minute if you can. Can you hang on the phone for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, great. We have a 603 caller coming in. Go ahead. You're on with Jeff and Shannon.
Hey, Jeff and Sharon, it's Darren. How are you?
Hi.
Darren, thanks so much for calling in. What do you got for us?
Great. I was listening to the counselor, too, and I believe it is a choice in the beginning, but I am a former addict.
Okay.
And you're right, it's not the down and out guy in the alley either. I remember running into one of them when I was a kid and said I would never, never, never. And I came by way of a real hard tragedy years ago.
Okay.
Almost 20 years ago, I found my brother hanging in my mother's basement.
Oh no.
I became a junkie that day just to kill the pain.
Wow.
And I stayed on it all these years. I finally got clean about 3 years ago after OD in my truck.
Wow.
But it wasn't a choice at that point.
It wasn't a choice. But did you felt out of the chute that it was a choice? You felt the first time it was a choice?
Not so much that. I had already been into some other stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I think, for at some point, like the lady said, I'm not even here to debate that one, to tell you the truth. We had to move on to how to help people.
Yeah, definitely. Now, first of all, before we get into that, you have seen in your area in New Hampshire a drastic increase in fatalities due to heroin overdose. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you've seen just in the past year or so?
Me personally, somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 or so in the last couple of years, and I think I'm on 14 this year.
Wow. That's staggering. Absolutely staggering.
Yeah. Just last Tuesday I was at one. That's why I missed your show.
Wow. I'm so sorry. So sorry to hear. Now, before we get into how you can help and what are the signs and things like that, we're going to talk about, helping versus enabling. But, just to recap a little bit, folks, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the heroin addiction in our country and the addicts, how they can be helped, how you can notice if somebody's addicted, and what we can do to help them. We're talking a little bit about if it's a choice or it's an illness. Now, let me ask Alexa, what do you say to the medical professional that says it is absolutely a disease? It is not a choice. It is something that is instilled in the brain. It could be hereditary. What do you say to those health professionals?
I think also it's also looking at at each person. Sometimes health professionals, if you're not in the psychiatric side, a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, it's seen more as maybe a choice or a medical condition. But I think what it is sometimes when obviously it starts off with painkillers, they don't start out thinking, hey, I'm going to get addicted to this. And I think with heroin, what happens is, I found with a lot of people is I would never shoot it, so I'm not really addicted, I'm never going to shoot it. And then 6 months down the road, they find themselves, I just smoke it, no, now I'm shooting it. And I think the behavior declines so quickly that people don't go in there with intentions like, wow, I'm going to get addicted. Someone says, hey, try this, it's a great high. And they don't understand that even after the first pop, it is so strong now. Each batch of whatever their dealer gives them of heroin is so strong that they're taking a chance that they could die every time. Even if they've been doing it for years, you're taking that chance you're going to die.
Let me ask Darren now, do you agree that this is something that can get a hold of you the very, very first time you try it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Absolutely. I was hooked the first shot.
Wow.
But again, mine was what they call a speedball mix of cocaine and heroin my first time out.
Okay. Now, have you seen or have you had experience, as Alexa alluded to, with people that could have an injury, never took a drug in their life. Let's say they got a knee injury.
Oh, yeah.
They get prescription from the doctor. Okay, prescription from the doctor, and then the addiction comes. Go ahead and tell us about it.
He was an HVAC contractor, a good buddy of mine that's out there. He was up on a roof unit, a big one of those industrial-sized HVAC units for like stores and malls, working on it. And the door came down on his back. Then he had a doctor in the area pumping him full of oxys for a few years. And I guess this doctor came under investigation for his, loose prescription deals, and he disappeared. So within a month, my buddy was hitting me up for heroin.
Oh boy! Wow!
And he's been out there. He's been out there for 10 years flat now. He ain't gonna stop.
Wow!
Yeah.
Well, as most can attest to, and I personally have friends that I have seen, use and ruin their lives, and I alluded to this a little bit in the last show. They absolutely just, their whole life changes. Their physical appearance changes. They lose contact with the people they love. They lose jobs. They lose family members. It's something that just can affect everybody. It's nothing to be taken, not seriously, because it's an absolute epidemic in this country right now.
Right.
And I think they're finding that, people now, it's so easy to get. And that's maybe why people so young are getting it. Is that the case?
Well, someone had told me that it's cheaper to buy a bag of heroin than a pack of cigarettes now.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, how frightening is that heroin is cheaper than cigarettes? I mean, it's really,
Right.
when you start to think about, I think there's such a high demand for it, and the dealers know half the time they'll give it free because they know this person's coming back no matter what. So
Yeah.
giving them
Oh,
cheap
yeah.
bags, they're going to make the money double.
Wow.
Yep. Yep.
What is a hit of heroin cost, like, for one use? If you don't mind sharing. Anybody?
It's been 3 years for me, and I mean, I was doing, between 300 and 800 a day, so I can't tell you.
Wow. Now,
I was filling full syringes 8 or 10 times a day.
you're lucky to be with us, my friend.
Yes, really.
I'm
am.
going to pose
know
this
that.
question to both of you, and I'm going to start with Darren. The people that I know that are fighting addiction, it is something that is a 24-hour-a-day process. It's you don't look past 24 hours, do you?
Here's where I have to throw some truth at you. Okay, I know we have the psychology world at this, we have the legal world at this, and the medical world. Let me try to tie this together for you, because I went to AA, I went to rehab, I did all kinds of stuff for many, many years.
Okay.
I had just gone through the entire TLC program at Keystone 4 months before I OD'd in my truck.
Wow. Oh, man.
Okay. What's the difference now?
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual healing.
Okay.
I got saved. Okay. All right. That's something that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous wasn't offering, and still isn't.
Okay.
Okay. Keystone Hall wasn't, still isn't. Okay. And if you kind of step back a little bit, not to pull off the topic of drugs, but look around us. We took God out of the schools, and now we've got school shootings every other day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What saved me, what helped me, was getting saved. Okay. Listen, my life still goes on, and for the last 3 years, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've dealt with a lot of tragedy. I haven't run to the needle, and I haven't felt the need to. Okay. In fact, I haven't smoked a cigarette in 21 months either.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I don't take the credit for it, though. Okay. You know as well, because Jeff, I sat down with Jeannie Nada and the New Hampshire County Attorney last week too, and we taped a 1-hour show, because people are starting to look at this and wonder, what are we missing here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you, what's working for me after everything else that didn't for 20 years, praying.
Okay.
And
All
before we spend another $1 billion or throw another $1 billion at this problem, I suggest a lot more people start doing it.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure someone was praying for me all those years. I just don't know who it is.
Well, not bad advice. I think people do absolutely need something to believe in. If it's praying to God or whatever your belief system is, I think a strong belief system does have a lot to do with it. But we've got about 20 minutes left here, and I want to move the conversation forward a little bit. Because we do have what I would consider to be two experts on the line with us, and I'm going to go back and forth between you guys. We want to talk about the people now that are associated with the addict, not necessarily the addict, but it may be your husband, it may be your wife, it may be your son, the soldier that's just come home from battle. Somebody that you love, somebody that's dear to you, you feel may be addicted. You're not sure yet, but you're sensing something is wrong. I'm going to go to Alexa first as a health professional. What are some of the signs that you'd look for in somebody that's addiction, and how can you find that out?
Yes. I just also wanted to start off just in reference to what Darren just said. And I want to say, Darren, I agree with you 100% of prayer and bringing God back. I definitely want to do that. And as a therapist, I can bring God into my therapy sessions if my clients are open to it. But I totally agree with you that God and prayer because it's very hard to beat an addiction. So I totally agree with you.
Okay.
Jeff, for your question, I think for those that have family members or a loved one that is suffering from addiction, I think it's finding out, are they starting to isolate? Are they starting to give away their personal belongings? Are there severe behavior changes? Are they in the bathroom a lot of times?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big sign, or they're always sleepy. Because I know a lot of parents that I've worked with, they're like, my daughter is in the bathroom like at least 6-7 times a day, and she sleeps all day. And that's usually behaviors where they're going to use. Who are their friends?
Okay.
I think it's a lot to really be aware of.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pose that question back to Darren, and then we do have a comment from the chat room that I want to touch on. But, Darren, I'd like you to answer the same question. As a former addict yourself, how would you, I guess the old saying is it takes one to know one. How do you pick up on somebody that might need some help?
We've all said it already. It's the can't keep a job. It's the always needing money. It's looking disheveled. It's not even being able to hold their eyes open. My poor sister, for years and years and years, I'd pop into her house in the middle of the day and be snoring by the time my butt landed on her couch.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
And I would do this on a regular. For years, I had her convinced that I had some kind of a low sugar problem and everything else when it wasn't at all. It was, the wear and tear on my body from the running that I was doing all the time. I couldn't be awake even when I wasn't high.
Wow. Okay.
And the look on people's faces. I remember holding my brother's license for years after he died, just looking at it and wondering, didn't anyone notice the look on this kid's face before he did this? He got his picture taken at the DMV.
Okay.
And no one said, "What's wrong with you?"
Wow.
So we live in a society where the people everyone just walks around head down with the blinders on because they don't want to know and they don't want to deal with other people's problems because they're so full of their own.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You got to get back to some kind of love and love thy neighbor and something along those lines. It's helping the next person and looking out for each other.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I do have a question from the chat room, and for those that are just joining us for the first time, our show is interactive, where we have a live chat, people watching from around the world. They can ask questions and chime in on the conversation. And Eric from the chat room asks about addicts that may absolutely not believe in God or prayer. How about them? How can they get help?
I find it's believing in whatever strength they have. Believing in, I think, doesn't have to be God as a higher power, but what they find that they have a passion about, that they have something to do. Because I find, if you don't believe in anything, if you don't believe in good or bad, if you don't believe that, then what do you hope for? What do you strive for?
Very
so
true.
I think it's finding out what's important and then figure out why don't you believe in God? Because I know I've worked with a lot of people, addicts or not addicts, who stopped believing in God because of a loved one was taken away from them because of an illness or because of a severe trauma. So they've turned against it. So I think it's really maybe exploring that too.
Okay. All right. Now, Darren, I'd like to give you a shot at that question too.
I just want to agree with her and say, the only thing I can pray for you is say, go outside and look around. There's green grass, there's trees, there's sky. If there's no God, how did all this happen?
Okay. All right. Inspirational, that's for sure. Now, we do...
And I'm alive, by the way. I shouldn't be, so there must be a God.
Yes, it sounds like it. And there was some angel on your shoulder there looking out for you, Bernhardt.
There always is.
That's
There
for
always
sure.
is.
Now, for those that are helping, for those that may have identified that their loved one or somebody that they care about, a friend, family member, is an addict, when does helping stop and enabling begin? Because we all want to help. We all want to be there for that person. We don't want to just cast them off into nothingness and not be of any help at all. But and I'm going to go to Darren first. As an addict, you've gotten help. You've seen both sides of it. When did you feel, now being on the other side of this thing, when did you feel that helping stopped and enabling began?
I personally was never enabled. I worked throughout my entire addiction and always supported myself and other people's addiction along the way. I've seen it a million times, and looking at it and seeing it in action. After that first term of recovery, whether they were clean for 30 days or 3 years, and they go back to it, whether it's lending them $5 or a place to stay or any of those things, that's enabling.
Okay. All right.
Paying their court fines or anything like that, that would be enabling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're supposed to love each other and help each other, but you're asking me to define enabling, and here it is. After their first term of cleanness, to go back to it, anything you do for them is enabling.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I agree with that.
All right. Yeah, that's good advice. Now, Alexa, I'm going to go to you. You've obviously dealt as a health professional in cases like this before. When you're counseling a family member or friend who, is dealing with an addict, how do you help them define helping from enabling?
I think the difference between helping and enabling is also, are we being honest about the addiction, about the problem? Enabling sometimes is there may be some excuses, there might be some, it really wasn't that bad. But I think the scary thing with the heroin addiction, which I have found so much with parents and loved ones of people who've been using, that when they start withdrawal from heroin, it's very deadly. So they're shaking. So there's times when you're sitting there with your 22-year-old daughter who's going into convulsions and seizures on the floor, and you have no idea what heroin addiction is. You don't know what's going on. And she says, I need to get some heroin or I'm going to die. And I've had parents who've had to go do that, and then the guilt and the shame. But they really, and there is a chance their child could have died. And I think it becomes so serious to say with the enabling is to know that this is a very serious thing. Like, they need to have a professional team. They need to be in treatment. This is not something that they can just going to get over in their house. They really need to have a team around them.
Okay. Go ahead, Darren. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. That's from the drug addict's perspective, and I know you're a professional, but if you actually go into the rehab to talk to some of those people, like Alex over at Keystone, they don't even medicate heroin addicts anymore that are coming down. This whole thing about they'll die if they're withdrawing, no, there is a sickness associated with it because of what heroin does to you physically, okay? But people do not die from withdrawals. Wow. Okay.
They die from ODing, but they don't die from withdrawals. I was one of them. I laid in the floor of Valley at the end for a week, wishing I was dead, but I didn't.
Wow.
You don't die from withdrawal. You may want to, but you don't.
Let me throw this curveball at you, and I'll start with Alexa on this. Personal experience, and more leaning toward alcoholic than drug abuser, but I imagine it's got to be very similar. A situation where somebody wants to get help. Obviously, they need to get into a program somewhere. Not everywhere has free programs, so you're looking to try to get something that's either sponsored or covered by health insurance, or however it is that you can get affordability for the help that they need. There's a case where I knew they wouldn't take somebody unless they had hit rock bottom. Mm-hmm. So it actually was a case where the addict was saying, hey, go get me some more of this because I need to be in such bad a shape that I can go get help. I want to get help, but they won't take me now because I'm in between, or I'm not as bad as I will be or have been in the last few weeks because I'm in a snapshot where things aren't terrible right now. Have you ever run into that? And I'll start with Alexa. Have you ever run into that situation where the people that are needing help are finding it tough to get to where they have to go to get that help?
Yes,
Okay.
I have found that, and I've worked with some professionals who've done, substance abuse as their only practice. That was their only population.
Okay.
And I found, from my professional opinion, a couple of times that they just were so kind of had that wall up against of someone who's addicted, and you're not being honest. You really don't want to help. You really have to hit rock bottom. And yes, you have to say, listen, I need help. I want to change. I don't want to live like this anymore. But I think it's sometimes listening to the other person. I find some professionals feel that it has to look a certain way, and I think each person, each addiction and case is so different that it's willing to say, okay, let's take the chance. And I know a lot of insurance won't pay for it, which is even more scary. They're trying to pass some more bills, but it's getting hopefully a little bit better.
Darren, I want to go to you. Have you personally run into people that want to get help that just can't afford it or can't get into a program for some reason?
Absolutely. As you know, I may not know, we had Keystone Hall here in Nashville for eons.
Okay.
And about 4 years ago, which was the last time I was in, we went into the new built building. It looks like a hospital. It's a complete lockdown, okay? And what it was an insurance game. And those without money or insurance weren't getting in.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
They had maybe a few beds available from time to time for the indigent ones, but it was the pregnant girl that's got daddy's credit card gets in. Okay. Now, we have a situation in New Hampshire where they voted down all the funding. I'm on a committee with Keystone and Harbor Homes, and we're racking our brains to figure out some kind of local fundraising where we can have a fund set up to keep the money real local. Okay. Can't afford to have it go up to the higher up in the government because it won't go where it needs to go. But we need to save Keystone because it's on the verge of closing because of this lack of funding.
Wow. Shannon,
and
you
if
got something?
1% of all the addicts in Nashville wanted to get clean tomorrow, they'd get turned away. They've been turning 100 people away a year since they opened that new building.
I believe it.
That's sad.
Darren, I got to ask you a question because we haven't touched down on this yet. How hard was it to come back after being rehabbed and try to reestablish all your relationships with everybody again? I mean, your friends, your family, your loved ones who had obviously known that you were dealing with addiction. Was it easy?
No. When I left Keystone, I was right about 8 months clean, and I thought I was going to go the long haul that time. And then I went through the thing where my mother had died of lung cancer in August of that year, and then I got some misinformation about my older sister that led me to think that she had died in the same week during a heart operation. And I decided to take a weekend reprieve, meaning I was going to get high for the weekend, right? Here it was late August. Well, I stayed out there until I died that November.
Wow. Oh, my God.
I didn't miss a day. I stayed high the whole time. And when I finally did, and over the last year or 2 or 3 years since, there's a real, it really came out, the real story came out, and they all know, and I've had pretty much no contact with any family.
That's sad.
Now that they know what was going on for the last 25 years, they don't want any part of me, even though I'm straight now and don't even smoke.
Wow.
Really?
Very sad.
That's going to be tough.
Do have another quick question from the chat. Nathan asks, would helping somebody taper off be considered enabling or helping? And is that even possible, I guess? I'm going to add that end of it. Is that even possible? And we'll go to Alexa on that one.
I mean, I think it depends on how long is the tapering off going. And I mean, I think, and then to what degree. I think also, sometimes people aren't ready to stop cold turkey that next day. And maybe the person needs to taper off to really understand, I have an addiction, I can't. Because I think a lot of times people are in denial. Oh, I could stop if I wanted to. I could stop if I wanted to. And maybe by allowing them to taper off and be present with them when they're tapering off, they can start to realize, I don't know if I can do this on my own.
Okay. All right. Darren, how do you feel about that? Do you feel that as an addict that you would be able to allow somebody to control your heroin intake, so to speak, and allow them to help you taper off? Could you ever get to that point of wanting help where somebody, it could be, it seems that simple. Could it ever be that simple?
I think addiction, as long as that beast is alive and awake, okay, whether it's just a little tiny pinch every day or Suboxone or methadone or whatever they're doing, is keeping that monster awake inside, okay? So, they've changed the name and they call it Suboxone or they call it methadone. It's the same thing, okay? And it's not free from addiction. It's not free from the drug, okay? And these Suboxone and methadone clinics, I mean, they're just keeping these people in a limbo. They're not doing anything with their lives. Their whole life is focused and centered on getting to that clinic every day.
Wow, that bad. Boy.
And Suboxone's so addicted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. I shot Suboxone a couple of times.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
We're talking about a drug addiction in this country and specifically heroin addiction. And what we're finding is that the statistics are staggering. Over the last 2 years, deaths by heroin addiction are doubled. And the average age for the heroin addict and the death of a heroin addict in this country is 24 years old. Think about it. Your kid gets out of college, maybe gets a good job or a couple of years down the road. And how many times in the news, Shannon, have we heard, class valedictorian,
gone.
head cheerleader, tops in her class 4.0 student,
Yep.
22 years old, dead of heroin. I mean, it can happen to anybody. Nobody is immune to it, from it, I should say. And it's a very, very serious problem. Now, we just have a couple minutes left, and I'd like to give each of you a couple minutes to respond on this. But I'm going to start with Darren. What is the biggest thing that you think we can do as individuals to help this cause?
We got to keep the conversation alive. For years and years and years, heroin was the big black secret no one could talk about, sweep it under the rug, and it got a lot of people killed over the years. Too many. Okay. I'm glad the conversations are starting. I'd like to keep them based on an acceptance and coming from a place of love and exploration, not hate and condemnation, because that's not going to solve anything. It never has. All right. Definitely keeping the conversation going. Get it out of the closet into the light. And I had to go back to the original. We all need to stop praying because there isn't enough money in the world to fix this problem.
Okay. So awareness, I think, is one of the biggest things that you're saying. Now, Alexa,
Absolutely.
going to you, Alexa, how do you feel as not only a health professional, but us listening as the audience, what can we do to help this problem that's now rampant in our country?
I guess, again, awareness and education, speaking to family members, speaking to parents, speaking to schools, speaking to children, the understanding of how serious this is. And I think also going after doctors and pharmaceutical companies to really explain to someone when they're having a surgery or they're having something, there's a chance they can become very addicted and that it could lead to heroin. I think there has to be a lot of information out there. And I think also working with other people, having community groups, having places like your show where people can call up and talk about it and really start helping people. This is not the person, in the corner with the ripped up jacket that looks like a homeless person. The heroin addicts, these addicts, these are everyday people, and it's saying it could be your child, it could be someone in your house, and really just supporting and going after those drug dealers.
Wow.
Because I hear a lot of times it's once you put one away, there's 10 more on the street. There's got to be something else we can do. They have to be put in longer. This has to be really harder punishments because they're killing our youth. They're killing our people.
Yeah.
All right. I want to thank both Alexa Servo-Didio and Darren for both calling in tonight. Both of your stories are amazing, and the work that you do and the roads that you've traveled are both very courageous and admirable, and I thank you both for your input tonight. Hopefully, the awareness can continue, and that seems to be the biggest thing that we can do to help people and help this addiction in this country that is going rampant. And one thing, Shannon, that I learned is that it can come from anything. It can come from being addicted to pain medication, can be a gateway to heroin.
Oh, yeah,
who'd have thunk it,
easily.
That's serious.
It's the opiates. I mean, that's what they're made of.
That's serious. So it is something to take very seriously. It's something to never, ever look by. And again, we want to thank those that called in tonight for sharing their stories very courageously. And we want to thank all of you for joining us and everybody at LATV. Carl, Tina, Jack, Jane, and Robert, right down the list. They do a fine job there in supporting us, and we certainly appreciate that as well. On behalf of my lovely co-host, Shannon, and all of us here at the Up for Discussion crew, we'll see you next time.
See you next
Thanks
time.
for tuning in.
Bye, guys.